Hi 8th grade students, and welcome to our first video and welcome to my recording studio. I didn't have one of those in the spring, but now I do. And what we're going to be doing on our Mondays is you will get a full day of class on Mondays. I will do two videos. I will do a grammar and writing one, and I will do a grammar one and a writing one. So they'll be two separate. That way they're a little shorter and a little easier to upload. And you'll watch both of those on Mondays, and then you will have homework on Tuesdays. Then I will see you on Wednesdays, and you will have homework on Thursdays. This way it keeps the schedule pretty much like we've had it in the past. It's just that you're getting that video from me on Monday. And that way you can kind of work throughout the week. On Thursdays, let me just remind you that what we'll be doing on those days is I will have what I call office hours or a check-in time. And I will send a link to those, and this week it will not be mandatory. And so if you would like to check in for those office hours, ask me any questions, clarify homework, go over the writing assignment a little bit more, that time is just for 8th grade grammar and writing. And so feel free to come into the session. It may just be you, and it could be just a one-on-one tutoring if you're having trouble. So remember those. I don't want to make mandatory a third session. I want you to watch the videos. I want you to do the homework. On weeks when we do have that extra session on Thursdays, I will either lower the homework expectations or shorten the videos for you. So I want to start with the first thing on your HAS, and hopefully you've printed out your HAS. Looks very much like this. These each week will be posted in the mainframe of the school site on Sycamore, and they will also be posted in the 8th grade classroom. So when you go into that classroom and you click on documents, there will be a list of things each week. And then at the end of the week, I will archive them. So I'll put the HAS forms in a HAS folder. And then the way that the rest of it will be divided out is probably by chapters of Rod and Staff. And then also the writing assignments that we are doing. I'll have a folder for each different one. And that way you'll know where to find it if for any reason you or your mom needs to find it. So I'm going to start with poetry because that's the first thing on there for Monday in class. And if you have not already printed out the poetry selection, it is up on that classroom page. It's probably just called September Poetry Collection. I don't remember. But regardless, it is the Declaration of Independence. It's an excerpt from that. And one of the reasons that we're doing this, 7th and 8th grade are doing some of the same things. And this is one of them that we are doing. And so we're doing this because students generally in America do not have a good grasp of American history, nor do they have a grasp of who the founding fathers were or what they actually did. So we want you guys to be doing this. And like I said, we'll be doing this, a lot of this stuff school-wide. So I want to start with, I'm going to read it out loud, and then I'm going to make suggestions on how you memorize this. Some of our memorization, some of our reciting will actually be done on those Thursday sessions. Some will be done in class, and some will be done at home. But I'm going to mix it up because I don't want to use all our class time just for poetry recitations. So there might be like a few that we do in class, or maybe I'll pick 3 people each time. Either way, your mom, if she's doing it at home, she would have the same rubric, and so she would also grade you for this. So I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to make a couple of comments. The unanimous direct declaration of the 13 United States of America, and the reason that the U is not capitalized there is that it had not been officially called the United States of America. They were united in their thinking, but it was the states of America at that point. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, that would have been Great Britain, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Now, we'll talk about this a little bit more in class next week, but what I recommend that you do is that you take it about 2 lines at a time, and as far as memorizing, and making sure that you're sounding out, looking up words that you don't know, and hopefully with this recording I've pronounced them correctly. You can go back and listen to that. Making sure that you are using the correct punctuation. So in the first sentence, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, pause there. When, in the due course of human events, it becomes necessary. So making sure that you're pausing and that you're giving emphasis on the words that you need to. And so this week, you would work on those first 2 lines of, just the very beginning, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. That should not be that hard. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. The unanimous declaration, repeated a couple of times. Once you have that, then add on to that. It will be important for you to keep up a little bit better with the poetry than you did last year, because if you have not heard, we are going to have like a History Bee thing going on instead of a spellathon. And we want to see how much you have learned and remember throughout the year. So we'll take a look at this again on Wednesday, but for now, print it out and begin working on it. The second thing that we will do in our class, in our grammar class, is that we will, if there are any difficulties with homework, and I've heard from a lot of students, I will go over some homework review and possibly answers. For right now, it's pretty simple, but as we get into more difficult stuff, look for possibly at the beginning of our video class that I go over some homework problems. You can even email me or message me particular problems that you want me to go over, and then I'll make sure that those get included. So today we will be looking at lesson 5 in our wonderful little pink textbook. So if you would get that out and open up to page 30. And what we are doing today is we are talking about subjective compliments. We're not talking about the kind of compliments that you give a friend when they wear something beautiful, or when they have a really cool mask on, or when their hair looks particularly good. We're talking about something that is working in conjunction. It is working alongside. And so that's what a subjective compliment is. Now, one thing I really want you to do is I want you to get that sheet of paper out, and I want you to be taking notes. Now, I promised the 7th graders in the video that I did for them that when we come in on Wednesday, at some point in the class, I'm going to ask them to open their notebook, and I'm going to trust that they're going to open up right to their notes from the video, and they will get a quiz score for that. So if you have to do at least a half a page of notes, and you get a quiz score for that. So make sure you're taking notes. Get your paper out, and I want that to be a habit that you're doing, whether you're in class with me or that I'm coming to you via the video. So I want to take a look at the gray box. You know that that's my MO. I always go there first because I do want you to know the definitions. And it says here that the subjective complement completes the sentence skeleton by referring to the subject. So this complement thing is something additional from the sentence skeleton. And we learned about the skeleton the other day, that straight line across, down the middle. So we know what that is. This is going to come alongside and tell us a little bit more about the subject. Then there are two ways that this can show up. It can either show up as a predicate nominative or it can show up as a predicate adjective. Now, if you look at the word nominative, you sort of see name in there. That is the noun form. The predicate nominative is the noun or pronoun. It's going to follow a linking verb and it's going to rename the subject. The predicate adjective also follows the linking verb, but it modifies. It's not renaming, it's modifying. It's maybe telling us what color it is or what its title is, something like that. So we're going to take a look at both of these, and we're going to be looking at them in the context of diagramming. So you might want to make sure that you have a ruler handy or something that can help you with your diagramming. So the first thing I want to highlight with the predicate nominatives and adjectives is the situation with the verb. Now remember, with these, you are going to have a linking verb. You are not going to have a transitive verb. You are not going to have a, well, you could have a sensory verb, but you're not going to have that transitive. So remember, those linking verbs, words like is, are, was, were. Remember those. You do not look at these and see the action in your head. Now, if I said the horse trotted across the field, you can close your eyes and see trotted. But if I said the horse is in the field, you can't see the word is. You can probably imagine. These, I call these boring verbs. And so those transitive verbs are the ones you can see in your head that clearly show the action. And those have a direct object after them. We're not talking about direct objects. We're talking about predicate nominatives and adjectives. And they have these words attached to them. Now, they also do sometimes have a word that you can see in your head. And that's where you have to then be a good detective, a good grammar detective, trying to figure out where that is. The sensory verbs, the strawberries taste good. Taste is something I can sort of see in my head, but the word that comes after it is good, and that's an adjective. And so we have to remember that those sensory verbs can also lead us to the predicate nominative or adjective. And you can label them like that. So if anywhere you have to label on your homework, you can put PN or PA. You do not have to write the whole thing out. Okay, so with all of that said, let's take a look then at our, right at the very beginning, halfway down through page 30, that's the page that we're on, is predicate nominatives. Now we've already decided that's a noun or a pronoun. It's usually, notice it says follows a linking verb. I'm going to say usually follows. I don't like to say always with the English language because it will come back to haunt us. And it's going to rename the subject. Usually the predicate nominative is a single noun or pronoun. It could be a compound, and we might see one of those, I'm not sure. So let's take a look at a couple of sentences with these predicate nominatives in them. All right. Here's one. David was king. Just going to keep it simple. Here's our subject. Here's that linking verb, or if you want to be like me and call it the boring verb. And then here's the noun that comes after that renames David. So he was king. It's renaming him. Now, to diagram this, we would normally always, well, we're always going to have this, but a lot of times we do an up and down line here as well, but we're not. I'm going to show you what you're going to put there in a minute. We know the basic skeleton. And we know that David is the subject and goes right here. And then the word was. We're going to put the subject verb. But then most of us know about that up and down line. But this is not an up and down. It's going to be a slanted back line. And I always tell people this is like slanting it back to what it's about. So I always like to put a little arrow. You don't have to put the arrow, but it reminds me to put that slanted line there. So it's going back to David, and then over here is where I would write king. So again, this is not something that the English gods have said you have to do with that arrow. I like to use it because it reminds me that it goes all the way back there to David. All right, how about another one? How about the cat was king? You know how cats are. They think they're king of everything. They're pretty persnickety. So in this case, the cat was king. The same thing. I'm going to put cat was, and then there's my backslash, and king. Or if I had David is king, or if I had the cat is king, is would go there. Also, I could say the cat has been king, and has been would go in here. The David will be king, and that will go in here and indicate what he is going to be. So this is the nominative. This is where a noun shows up here. This is PN. 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 Nominative. Just like noun, it's in the nominative. Now, there can also be the adjective showing up. So you can have one of two things showing up in those spaces. All right, so let's take a look at our books at the predicate adjectives on page 31. About a third of the way down the page, we see the definition. The predicate adjectives follows the linking verb. So that's all the same, but it modifies. Just like an adjective tells us about the noun, the predicate adjective is still going to tell us about that noun. It just comes after the linking verb. So we have some sentence samples there. Lori's idea seems the most practical. Well, practical isn't a noun, so we can't call it a predicate nominative, but it is describing her idea. She sounded enthusiastic about her idea. And so we have the word she, and then we find out that enthusiastic is describing her. That is, you could say, Mrs. Jernigan is enthusiastic about grammar and writing. And so you would take the enthusiastic and it would be modifying what word? She, or Mrs. Jernigan. Then you see a little bit, here's an example of a word that doesn't appear to be a linking verb, but it's one of those exceptions. And so if you look maybe 2/3 down on page 31, where it says the pancakes turned a golden brown in the pan, you would think turned would be one of those transitive verbs. But if you really look carefully at the whole sentence, we see not really what we need to see as far as a transitive verb. We don't see a direct object pop up there. So what they tell you to do is to take one of our linking verbs and plug it in. So instead of the pancakes turned, we could say the pancakes were, and that, or are a golden brown. And so if that word is sensible, or makes sense, then it is likely a predicate nominative or adjective popping in there. So you do have to be careful with some of those kinds of words. Let me go to the next page. Let's do a couple of compound. So once in a while you're going to get these weird words that pop up and you're not really sure. And so that's why you have to kind of have to look at the whole sentence and see, do I have a word that's modifying the noun? Do I have a word that's renaming? And so it's making you be cautious with some of these words that appear to be maybe transitive or words that you can see in your head, but they're really some of those linking verbs. Okay, so let's do one with a compound so we can see how to diagram that. How about David was king and chief? Did I spell chief right? I'm not sure. I did. Okay, so we have our normal, David, and was. We're still going to do the backslash, but this time we're going to draw that pencil point kind of backwards of what we did it before. And we're going to put king and chief. So your pencil point goes over here. Now, once in a while, you might have pencil point in for the verb. We've talked about it with the noun. But this is how you do it at the end for the predicate, nominative, and adjective. We could also say something like David was sleepy, and hungry. Now, these were nouns. These are predicate nominatives. But when I say David was sleepy and hungry, the formation does not change at all. It's the same formation. It's just these are predicate adjectives now. So you've got predicate nominatives up here, predicate adjectives down here, but its diagram's just the same. So remember that, that your diagramming really doesn't change. I see my little light is shining a little bit. Sorry about that. Sometimes it reflects a little bit. We're working on those things. So that is what we have for today's grammar lesson. Subjective complements, that just means the subject has something complementing it. It's either describing it or renaming it. So that's what you're going to be doing for your homework. You're doing pages 32 to 33. This is listed for tomorrow. You are welcome to turn this video off and finish it today. I don't care. You're doing exercises A and B, and please be neat. Now let me just make one more comment before I complete this video. When you come to class on Wednesdays, it will be really important for your homework to be neat. I don't want to spend 10 minutes sorting through Tuesday's homework and last Thursday's homework. So what I'd like for you to do is to have a folder that has your name on the front. This one doesn't have my name on the front. And then on the inside, you should have it labeled grammar and writing. So when you come in on Wednesday, you should have 2 assignments in the grammar and 2 assignments, I think probably just 1 for the writing, because I'm not having you do anything Tuesday. Whatever you have done for for Tuesdays and Thursdays should go in this folder. And the reason I like to collect by assignment, because I don't like to get them all confused. However, this year I think that would be a tedious chore on our school days. So I want you to put every piece of homework in here. And when you come in, you're going to we're actually going to meet. I'll go ahead and announce that here. We're going to be meeting in the sanctuary on Wednesday of next week. You're a bigger class, and it was a little bit noisy, and we had some extra space to work with, so we're going to push this class into the sanctuary. So when you come in, you will look for pieces of paper that are on the benches that you can sit on where one of those papers is. But before you sit down, you're going to want to pull out your folder. It doesn't matter what color it is, and you will place it on the bench as you come in, and then I will grab those. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time reminding you, but what I would really like is for everybody just have those folders, pull them out, and then put them on the bench. So if you have any questions with the grammar, please contact me. Remember, we will also have that check-in next Thursday, so that would be a time where we can clear up any misunderstandings or difficulties at that time. Your writing video will be up next with as a separate video, and I will spend a few minutes talking about our assignment coming up so that we can come in on Wednesday and move straight forward in that. So I hope you have a good Tuesday, and we will see you on Wednesday.